we're going to jump right in. This is the last week in our series, Aware, Awake, Alive, 30 Days of Joy. Now, we started this series with the topic, what the hell are you talking about? Yes. Recognizing that hell is not a real place, but hell is a real experience. And we create hell every time we are talking about hellish things, that life is terrible, that somebody did something to me, that life is hard, that life is a struggle, that nobody gives me a chance. You are creating hell in your life. What the hell are you talking about? And then week 2, independently happy. We talked about the idea that actually your happiness is not dependent upon anyone or anything. Many times in relationships, romantic or otherwise, we feel that we cannot be happy unless somebody is doing what we think they should be doing. And so when they're not following our shoulds, then we're unhappy and disturbed. But do you know that you can be independently happy? Independently happy. Last week we had a powerful message from Pastor Yolanda. Act like you got some sense. Lord have mercy. Act like you got some sense. Recognizing that we have the physical senses that we use, but there's a spiritual sense, there's a higher sense that we must tap into and be aware of. And we recognize that when we're acting like we don't have some sense, Pastor Yolanda used a beautiful example. It's like we're on a boat and we dock our boat in a town called worry, doubt, and fear, and we're living there until we realize something within us said, act like you got some sense, get back in your boat and flow down the stream of well-being, flow down the stream of ease, flow down the stream of all is well, flow down the stream of the best is yet to come, flow down the stream of it is working out for me, flow down the stream of I don't know how, but I know it always does, flow down that stream. Act like you got some sense. Powerful message. Powerful message. And so we want to move on. Addicted to joy.
Yes.
Now, it was interesting. I don't know if you all are familiar, and I'm sure many of you are, with a sister by the name of Gabby Bernstein. She has a book called May Cause Miracles. And she's one of the newer teachers that's been inspired by A Course in Miracles. And I celebrate her work, and I love what she's done because she's helped to sort of popularize A Course in Miracles. And really, in some ways, she's tried to make it cool. And I love how she's done that. And one of the things that she's done, she calls her team and her movement and the people that are listening to her and following what she's saying, they're called spirit junkies. And when I started with that, and I said, spirit junkies, like, is that spiritual? Is that good? Like a junkie, you know? I mean, immediately, brings to mind like someone using heroin or something. And, I said, is that, I don't know if that's appropriate. I also, heard people will say that, Jesus was the original spiritual gangster, right? And there's actually a clothing line called Spiritual Gangster. Now, on one level, that sounds good. Jesus is a spiritual gangster. But when you look at the roots of the word gangster and everything about gangster, there's nothing positive about that word. And so I don't really want to affirm being a gangster, because the gangs, by default, by what they are, the word gangster comes from the mob and the mafia, and we know what they did in this country and what they continue to do. Yep. I'm not affirming that. Jesus is not a gangster. Right? So sometimes we want to spiritualize certain words and make them, sound hip and cool. And so as I was listening to this word spirit junkie, I was like, is that appropriate? So I did what I always do. I started to look deeper into the word, and I found out that this is actually a very big word. Because another word that we would use if we would say that they're not a junkie, we might say that they're an addict. And the word addict is very powerful, because what it means simply is to be an adherent, a devotee, a fanatic, or a junkie. So using that word junkie, she could call them spirit addicts, she could call them spirit devotees, or even fanatics. But I wanted to dig a little deeper, as I always do, and the word addict actually comes from Latin. The Latin word is addictus, which actually comes from around 1520 to 1530. And addictus actually means assigned or surrendered. And so being a spirit junkie or even a spirit addict means that you actually assigned yourself to spirit or surrendered yourself to spirit. And so as I began to think about that, I said, well, even as we look at addiction is a habit. It's a giving over to something or surrendering to something. And so I said, well, can we have healthy addictions? Is that possible? And what I thought about, I said, well, if I was going to be addicted to anything, I would want to be addicted to joy. If I would want to make a habit of anything, I would want to make a habit of joy. If I wanted to be surrendered or call myself a devotee of anything, it would be to joy. And so what I want to talk about today is, what does it look like to be addicted to joy? How do we become addicted to joy? And why is that a positive thing for us to do? So as I began to sit with that, it took me to the book of Psalms. It took me to the very first Psalm, Psalm 1. And what's interesting about this portion of the Old Testament, this is the portion that's called the writings. This is the portion where we have lots of poetry, where we have wisdom texts like the book of Ecclesiastes, right, which is teaching us that everything has a season, that everything must change. It's the book of Proverbs, where we have a father bringing wisdom to a son, a mother bringing wisdom to her son. Right? And we have these wonderful, wonderful words that many of us use and have lived by. And so I went to the writings, this place of wisdom, to Psalm 1. Now I want to share first with you the King James Version, because that's probably the most familiar. And then we'll go on to another version. Psalm 1, verses 1 through 3. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stand in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Now when I hear that, that sounds like some a familiar, churchy, spiritual speak that we've heard. And what's interesting about it, that blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. Now that verse has been used many times to create separation. Now, as many of you know, I grew up in the Pentecostal church, and the thing about the Pentecostal church, it was said, holiness or hell, right? I'm either going to live for God or I'm going to go to hell, right? And this particular verse was a verse that many used to stand in that idea, this idea of not standing in the way of sinners, nor sitting in the seat of the scornful. See, that meant that for a time, I wasn't raised this way, but for a time, that meant that you didn't go to the movies. Right? Because you were in the place where sinners were. You were sitting in the same seat that sinners were. That meant that this is why many Pentecostal folks to this day, the women don't wear makeup. They don't wear earrings. My grandmother tells me the story. They used to call earrings hell bells. Right? That was the perspective. So when I hear this verse, first it kind of turns me off, because I'm like, where's the wisdom in this? Right? Because it sounds like it's just creating separation. And so what I love, of course, there are better translations. And so I went to the New Revised Standard Version, which is really the version that we should read from. And so in verse 1 through 3, it says this. Some words are similar, but it has a different bit. It says, happy are those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or take the path that sinners tread, or sit in the seat of scoffers. But their delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law they meditate day and night. They are like trees planted by streams of water, which yield their fruit in its season, and their leaves do not wither. In all they do, they prosper. Now, what I thought was interesting is that, and this is all throughout the New Revised Standard Version, anywhere in the King James where it said, blessed are, ... the New Revised says, happy are, ... So what I thought was interesting is actually, people run around, walk around, you call somebody, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm blessed and highly favored, right? Which if you know me, you know that I actually don't like that phrase. Because I believe that it creates separation. It sets up this idea that the universe or God, all that is, has blessed me and favored me highly, but may or may not have blessed or favored you highly, right? But this idea of being blessed, this idea of blessed is actually about being happy, right? Now, why is that important? Well, if I back up a little bit, if you go to the New Revised Standard Version, at the beginning of this section of Psalm 1, generally in that translation, it sort of gives titles to each section. And it says here, the two ways. The two ways. So what it's offering us is that there are two ways to live in life. There's something we can focus on and life will play out that way. There's something else that we can focus on and life can play out that way. And so this is where the wisdom is. If you want to be happy, happy are those who do not follow the advice of the wicked. Now, are we talking about sinners in the way that we may have learned or understood it before? And we've talked here many times that sin simply means to make a mistake or to make an error or just fall short, to miss the mark, right? So we're not talking of nobody is a sinner. To say I am a sinner is a powerful prayer that you should not pray, right? Nobody is a sinner. Now, you may have sinned, you may have made a mistake, but that's not who you are, right? So what it's talking about is, when we're talking about the advice of the wicked, I think what's interesting when it goes further and it says, nor take the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers. In the King James Version it says the scornful. Now what's interesting about that word is it simply means those who mock or deride, those who have a feeling of contempt or feel like they're fighting against something, that there's some injustice going on. So happy are those who do not listen to those kind of people that are always resisting something and fighting against something and talking about injustice and talking about what's wrong in the world. Do you get where we're going here? See, because you recognize that if you want to be happy, you have to speak and talk about that which is happy. If you want life to be good, you have to speak and talk about that which is good. What you tune your vibration, your radio station, your personal internal television channel to, that is what you will receive back. And so the wisdom here is saying, if you want to be happy, you have to listen to a different voice. And when you listen to that different voice, making your delight in the law of the Lord. Right? Now what does that mean? Lord there, it translates to Yahweh in the Hebrew. Yahweh simply means the existing one. We can say the all that is. Here we can say the universe, consciousness, source. We delight in the law of the universe. What God says about us. What does God say? A Course in Miracles. I am as God created me. God, the universe, the all that is always saying that you're perfect, whole, and complete. Nothing needs to be added to you or taken away. You're perfect, whole, and complete. So if you make your delight, your focus, and if you make that the most delicious thing that you focus on and have in your life, then you will be like this, like a tree that's planted by the rivers of water, which yield fruit in its season. Because that's what we'll say it another way. Do you want to manifest your dreams? Yes. Yield fruit. Right? Because if you're meditating on what God says about you, if you're meditating and focusing and delighting in what the universe knows to be true about you, that you're perfect, whole, and complete, you shall manifest perfection, wholeness, and completion in every area of your life. In its season, and your leaf will also not wither. That's powerful. The leaves of your tree, if you were a tree in this example, it would not wither. And whatsoever you do, it will prosper. It will succeed. It will grow. It will be much. It will be great. Powerful, powerful song. And so if we're thinking about being addicted to joy, we have to begin to be like that tree that's planted by the rivers of water. Water, it's the life-giving water, the water that's reminding us that all is well, is reminding us that there is abundance, that that's the nature of the universe. We look all around, if we look at nature, if we look at life itself, there's never been a time when the universe just grew one rose. And we all had to go to that one location where there was one rose that we all looked at. Oh wow, this rose is beautiful. And then nobody can experience it. Nobody can, give the one they love a dozen roses or even one rose. You can't do that, right? But what we know to be true is that there are roses all over the world. But there's not just that one flower. There are more flowers that we can enjoy. Some, yes, only grow in certain locations, but we know that there's more than enough. When you look in the sky and you see a cloud, you don't just see one. There are billions of stars up in the sky. There's not just one. This is showing us that the universe creates. The universe is multiple. The universe creates more than enough. Always. Always. So I want to move forward. What are we addicted to? We're talking about being addicted to joy. What are we addicted to? We, many times, if we're not addicted to joy, then that means we may be addicted to telling it like it is, which is interesting. We may be addicted to recreating the past. We may be addicted to arguing for our so-called limitations. Or we may be addicted to solving the world's problems, or trying to solve the world's problems. But what I've come to know and understand is that at any point that because there's a sense of nobility in that, right? If I tell it like it is. If I keep talking about the fact that, every time I go to apply for a job, I'm always denied, and I keep telling that story. Like, okay, that may be true, but as long as I keep talking about that, as long as I keep tuning into that, that is the only thing I can experience. And that's just the truth. That's not a right or wrong. I'm not here to make you feel bad. It's just true. Just as it's true that if you tune to Hot 97, you're going to get the music that Hot 97 is playing. I don't care if you wanted to hear something else, if you wanted to hear smooth jazz, if you wanted to hear talk radio, if you wanted to hear the news, if you wanted to hear the weather, you're only going to get what's on that station. Right? That has nothing to do with being good or bad. So we hear that. Or maybe we're addicted to recreating the past. Well, I had this issue, with my father, and things weren't perfect in the way they should have been, and so that's why I'm unable to have the relationship that I want. You're recreating the past. You can keep telling that story, yes. When you were 6, 7 years old, whatever it was, something happened, and when that relationship didn't move forward in the way you would have liked it to, it may have been different than what your friends experienced. True. But if you keep telling that, if you keep tuning to that station, if you keep tuning to that channel, you can only continue to get that in other relationships. You can only get that in other relationships. But maybe we're arguing for our so-called limitations. Well, you don't understand where I was born. I was born in a place where nobody goes to college. Some people don't even graduate high school. Or, you don't understand. My parents didn't know how to manage finances well, so I don't know how to manage finances well. Oh, well, I wasn't able to go to the best possible school, so yes, I have a degree, but it's, from a small college, and it's, I didn't go to Harvard, so ... Arguing for so-called limitations. But maybe we're addicted to solving the world's problems. There's a lot going on in the world. There's still the campaign, Bring Back Our Girls, and there's rumors of war in Iraq, and there's things that are still happening in Syria, and of course, during the World Cup, there's lots of terrible things that happened in order for the World Cup to happen. People were forced out of their homes, forced evictions. And if we keep talking about that and talking about how bad the world is, we cannot change it. Because that is the only thing that we are focusing on. If you want to change the world, start turning your focus towards peace. Start looking for solutions that bring about peace. And no longer talk about what's wrong. Again, I get it. You're telling it like it is, but then that is all that will be. Because we are vibrational beings, that's how we create. So the book of Psalms, it talks from that verse, the two ways that you can, as it says in the scripture there, listen to the voice of the wicked or the sinner, sit in the seat of the scornful, the scoffers. A Course in Miracles would say it this way: there are two ways, love or fear. Choose one. If you choose the path of fear, so you shall have fearful situations. And it also goes on to say that everything is reduced to fear. Stress, doubt, worry, ideas that you're limited, that you're this body, this soul clothing, which is only 5% of who and what you are. 95% of what you are is a non-physical perfect being that is supporting you in this physical life. It all reduces to fear. Choose one, love or fear. If you were listening to Abraham Hicks would say it's either positive or negative emotion. We can call negative emotion a lot of things. Worry, doubt, fear, stress, I'm not enough, thoughts of unworthiness, but it doesn't make you feel good, so you know that's negative emotion. But when you know that you're worthy, when you know that you're powerful, when you know that you're supported, when you know that you're more than enough, when you know that life is good and getting better all the time, you feel good about that. That's positive emotion. There are two ways. Which one do you want to focus on? If you were reading the Kabbalion will talk about the fourth great principle of polarity. And the Kabbalion says this: everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. You choose which side you want to focus on, and that's what you will have. And then again, in the book of Psalms, those who delight in the law of the Lord shall be like the tree planted by the river of water. But those who listen to the voice of the scornful, those who listen to the voice of the scoffers, those who are following this idea of resisting life, you can't flow. So what keeps us from being addicted to joy? Well, I think it's our beliefs, right?
Yeah.
Now, Abraham Hicks says something that I love, that a belief is simply just a thought you keep thinking. And so it's like a snowball, a small little snowball at the top of a great mountain, that you roll it down and it starts to pick up more and more snow, and more and more snow, and eventually it can become an avalanche. But at its beginning, it was just a small little ball, a thought that you keep thinking, that just continues to roll and grab momentum, because the law of attraction always brings brings that which is like itself to it. So as you're thinking thoughts of unworthiness, when you're thinking thoughts that someone else doesn't think you're good enough, if you're thinking thoughts that you're broken or that you're bad or that you're sinful or that there's something that you should be ashamed of, that snowball will keep rolling and you will continue to have a life based on that. Or maybe it's the belief in struggle. Believe that you have to work hard or to prove your worthiness. See, that's why you have to work hard. But then that snowball, you will keep attracting. I don't care what job you go to. I don't care which promotion you get and how much money you make as you move forward. You're still going to have this feeling like, well, why am I always so exhausted and tired? I always feel like I have to prove myself. I thought when I got to this level in my life that then life would be easy or life would be a little easier and I wouldn't have to continue to prove myself. But you continue to attract and create and true all of those examples to continue to back up your belief. Or the belief in lack, that there's not enough to go around. And this is to my earlier point, this is what I was talking about. There's not just one rose. There's not just one cloud. There's not just one star. There is more than enough and always shall be. But we have to focus on that, and so it is. And so the thing is that when we're addicted to what is, when we're addicted to these beliefs that we believe what is, when we're addicted to the past or addicted to unworthiness or struggle or lack, we are just like that tree again, but rooted in those very beliefs, those very thoughts, and so we continue to drink and bring that up. And so what I want to talk about here is to understand what your point of attraction is. And understanding how this law of attraction is always operating on your behalf, without judgment, without hesitation or reservation. Particularly when we're thinking about the past. And I don't know about you. I mean, I've had, my moments where I've had breakthrough opportunities where something that I didn't really understand how my past or my childhood was informing how I'm living. That I had acquired this belief, this vibration as a child, and the snowball just kept rolling and rolling. Because unconsciously, I just believed that's the way life was. It was true, and so the universe kept saying yes and amen, and so it is. And I kept experiencing similar experiences with different characters at different ages and different stages, but the same thing over and over again. But then I had a breakthrough. And then as that awareness comes, it's like, oh, okay, I understand. I do this because of what happened then. And so now I can choose a different story. Wonderful. And I go through life, and life is good. And then something else comes up. Well, why is this happening? I don't understand. Oh, and I go back into my past. And it's like, oh, okay, well, there was this other incident and this other thing, or I didn't realize how deep or how bad it was, so I have to continue to clean that up. But what happens is, then our point of attraction remains in the past. Because the past is something that doesn't exist. It really doesn't mean anything. And so the only thing that we're interested in doing is simply understanding where we're pointed, right? Where our point of attraction is. But see, when we're understanding, or when we treat our past as though it's fact, when we treat our past like these beliefs, right? Because usually thoughts of unworthiness came from an experience, right? Someone, may have did something or didn't do something or said something, and then you feel like I'm unworthy. Or the reason that you think you have to compete, or the reason you think you have to prove your worthiness is because of something that happened in your childhood, right? And so we must learn to turn our point of attraction. And what I was hearing and thinking was that it would be sort of like if we considered the past like CNN playing in our head. Imagine if CNN was playing in your head 24/7. Those would be the thoughts that you were thinking. Yes, yes? And so you would hear those thoughts again and say, okay, this is where I'm supposed to go, or this is what I'm supposed to do, or, oh, the world is terrible, or the world is fearful, and there are terrorists that are coming, and oh, there's tainted meat that I can't eat, and oh, there's all of these things going on, and these would be the thoughts that are playing over and over in your head. And if you didn't know that unconsciously, that's the way you would live your life. This is the way life is, and what I know to be true, because you are a creative, powerful, vibrational being, the life outside of you would back that up. If it didn't happen to you, a friend of yours would come to you and tell you a story. Yeah, I bought some bad meat from the grocery store, and I was in the hospital, and they had to pump my stomach out, and da-da-da-da-da. And then you would turn on the news, and there would be some special talking about, terrorism in the 21st century. And it would back up these thoughts and these ideas that you're hearing about how I should be fearful of the world. But the moment that you recognize that there's a channel that I am tuned into called CNN, but I can because I know that there's a channel, I can now turn my channel, I can now turn my station, I can now vibrate at another channel that's called It's All Good, All those thoughts. Yes, yes?
Yes.
That's how simple it is to shift our point of attraction, recognizing that the present, the past, when we're hearing the voice of the past, it's simply just it's a channel that you're tuned into. Turn the channel. It doesn't mean, it's not like, I think we feel like our past is like this bag that we carry with us, and so, well, this is my past, and I have to hold on to it because it's part of my life. That's the telling it like it is story. What I'm telling you is that it's just the place that you're turned to in that moment. That's all. Turn to another place, and you will experience something different. So it would be like this. You can't go north and south at the same time. If you want to go south, you have to turn south. That's all. We've given the past way too much credit and way too much power. Because all the past is, if we're experiencing anything from the past in our life now, it's simply a belief, a thought that we would continue to think, that is snowballed and continue to build, and continue to build, and continue to build. But as soon as you turn your attention away from it, what I love is physics plays this out. Everything must come to a rest eventually. The energy dissipates. But when you're focusing on it, you give it energy. Quantum physics teaches us that, right? That we have these blind experiments, but when you focus on the experiment, when you focus on what's happening, you affect how it plays out, how the experiment plays out, how it happens. If you take your focus off of it, it has no energy. You're not giving energy to it. That's how simple it is to let go of this past thing. It is not a big old bag that you're carrying around. It's not a badge, right? That's part of your existence or part of your family's existence. Let that story go now.
Yes.
And so then what I love is A Course in Miracles. I was reminded, I believe it was in week 1, what the hell are you talking about? I was reminded, I quoted Abraham Hicks, who said, stop arguing for your limitations and start advocating for your desires. Powerful. And that's what actually brought that thought about what the hell are you talking about. Stop arguing for your limitations. And what I love in A Course in Miracles, it says this. It's lesson 281. Powerful lesson. I can be hurt by nothing but my thoughts. And it goes like this. Father, mother, your son is perfect. We are perfect. When he thinks that he is hurt in any way, it is because he has forgotten who he is, and that he is as you created him. Your thoughts can only bring me happiness. See, that goes back to the Psalms again. When you meditate on the law, what God says, what the universe says, your thoughts can only bring me happiness. Your thoughts will bring you delight. Your thoughts will make me like that tree planted by the rivers of water. Your thoughts can only bring me happiness. If ever I am sad or hurt or ill, I have forgotten what you think and put my little meaningless ideas in place of where your thoughts belong and where they are. I want to read that again. Oh my God. Your thoughts can only bring me happiness. If I ever am sad, hurt, or ill, I have forgotten what you think and put my little meaningless ideas in place of where your thoughts belong and where they are. I can be hurt by nothing but my thoughts. The thoughts I think with you can only bless. The thoughts I think with you alone are true. That is how we become like that tree planted by the rivers of water who will yield its fruit in season, and its leaves shall not die. But yes, thoughts about unworthiness are little meaningless ideas. Thoughts that you are not enough are little meaningless ideas. Thoughts that your past has any power in the present is a little meaningless idea. Thoughts that you have to prove your worthiness is a little meaningless idea. Thoughts that there is not enough in the world is a little meaningless idea. But the thoughts that you think with the universe who sees you as perfect, whole, and complete, that will bring you happiness. And that will make us just like that tree planted by the rivers of water. So I'm making a decision today, and I hope you will make the decision with me, that I'm going to be addicted to joy. That I'm going to make a habit of joy. That I'm going to be surrendered, assigned to. I am going to be a devotee of joy. Because yes, in my life, I've been addicted to the story. I've been addicted to what happened to me when I was a little boy. I've been addicted to the relationship that didn't work out, and so that's why I act this way in relationships. I was addicted to the idea of the times when I didn't have a lot of money, and so I still bring those thoughts back into my space now, even when I'm making more money. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? You can be in the best possible relationship you've ever been in. Life is good, but somehow are you still bringing that old story and trying to make the good relationship look like the bad relationship? The past is a little meaningless idea. I'm addicted to joy today.
Yes.
Can you make that decision with me? To be a devotee of joy today? Yes, yes?
Yes.
I'm never going to stand. Please, stand. Thank you, God. I feel this thing go so strongly, y'all, because I just know it's the truth. And I know that you are powerful creators, powerful vibrational beings. The lives that you are creating for yourselves are magnificent, and yet the best is yet to come. Whatever good, just for a minute, whatever good you can think of, that you can feel that's happening in your life, whatever it may be, big or small, doesn't matter. Whatever that good is, the best is yet to come. There's more. Why? Because we live in an expansive universe. Evolution is the nature of life itself. Our galaxy is still growing, it's still forming. New stars are coming online all the time. As we become aware of a new galaxy, we become aware of more galaxies. For so long, humanity has had this limited idea that first it was just the Earth, but then maybe, okay, it's just the planets that we know of, and the sun and the moon, and that's it. There's more. There's actually billions of galaxies just like ours. That's what we know. That's what we know. And so if we know that, we know that there's much more beyond that. Think of all the billions of people that are on this planet right now. Look at the beautiful, even as I look at you now, all of the beautiful colors and shapes and sizes that we are. Life is always expressing itself in new, dynamic, and more powerful ways. There's more. But the only way to experience the more that you absolutely desire is to become addicted, focused, a devotee, surrendered to joy. If you want to make your point of attraction the past, and so it is, and you can live life that way, wobbling through life, maybe, right? But I don't think there's anybody here in this room or within the sound of my voice that wants a life that's dictated by the past. And then think about it. I remember Reverend Al Sharpton speaking to this. During the time of the Civil Rights Movement, we were in an unprecedented space and time. And what a lot of people would say, even some of our white brothers and sisters who were well-meaning, were like, oh, just give it a little more time. We're just not ready. We're just not ready, right? If everyone had waited for that, waited for this idea of, oh, I gotta wait till everyone's ready, I gotta wait till I can see it, we would never be in that place now. Segregation would still exist, right? But we had to not look at what is, but look at what we desire and let that come into being.
Yes.
That's how it happens, right? Every record that exists now, academic record or sports record, in the Olympics or other, all of those records were broken previously. All of those records will continue to be broken because there's this constant growth and evolution. There's always more. So while it may seem impossible, for someone to, at one time, to run a mile at a certain time, in a certain time, that's been broken. And it was beautiful. Once somebody does it, then we all believe it. A thought that we keep thinking over and over again, and then almost everybody can do it. But what I understand is that we're on the leading edge, right? The word I love is that we're possibilians. And as possibilians, we are choosing to say, no, the life that I desire, even if I have not seen it, shall be.
Yes.
And then as Pastor Yolanda reminded us last week, why? Because what we understand is that the very first manifestation of that thought or that belief is the feeling. And so as we have the thought, when we get excited about it, when that passion starts to bubble up, that's your first manifestation. That's how you know it's real and you know it's true. And so you allow that thought, that belief, to keep churning, just like the snowball. The snowball can be good or bad, positive or negative. And then it begins to express an experience in your life. The people, the resources, whatever is needed will start to come, will just start to show up. And it feels like, oh my God, it's magic. No, you're a creator.
Yes.
It's not magic. You are a powerful creator. So Mother, Father God, we are grateful to remember and remind ourselves in this moment of who and what we are. We recognize that there's a greater part of ourselves that we know as you, that is cheering us on and calling us back into our greatness. Calling us to remember that the past has no power in the present. That the past has no business in the present. And neither does the future. now. We seek first the kingdom of the now, and we recognize that then all things shall be added unto us. Everything that we desire, everything that we want to experience and create in our life will come forth easily and effortlessly. And so in this moment, as we have taken this time all month to stand in awakening and being aware and alive to this beautiful thing called joy, unconditional happiness, we are choosing to take that with us throughout our week and throughout our world. Joy is not conditional nor temporary. It is an everyday reality and experience. And so we are choosing to turn our focus, to turn our vibration, to turn our signals to that which matters most, to what you say about us. We let go of these meaningless ideas of anything other than I am as God created me, of anything other than I am perfect, whole, and complete. And so it is from our perfection, it is from our completeness and our wholeness, we say yes to all that life desires to be and express through us, knowing that we can be, do, or have anything. And so we release these words back into you with joy, knowing that you are the how, and will give us inspired action, give us the steps that we must take. And oh, what a world we will create together, co-create. For this I am so very grateful. We lift up our voices, we say amen,
Amen.
Ashe,
Ashe.
and so it is.
And so it is.
So it is.